Welcome to this week's episode of Coffee with a Journalist, brought to you by the team at OnePitch. Are you looking for a more efficient way to find and pitch the right journalists? Head to our website at onepitch.co to learn more. Our guest on today's episode of Coffee with a Journalist is Maya Goldman from Axios. As the health policy reporter, Maya covers policy issues in Congress and federal agencies, including Medicare payment, telehealth, and price transparency. During the episode, Maya talks about her interesting things to follow up on email folder, the specific kinds of sources she talks with, how to time pitch embargoes, and more. Let's dive in.
Welcome, everyone. This is Coffee with a Journalist. I was like, what drink are we drinking? Coffee. That's what we do here. I'm Beck Bamberger, and we always have a fun chat with a journalist, a reporter, editor, freelancer on this show, really for the aim of having us publicists learn a little bit more of how to work with our media friends, if we're going to call them friends. Let's see. Maya is here with us today. Maya Goldman. She is the health policy reporter from Axios, going to be talking about, and actually she's been there for a little while, all things health policy related. There's a lot going on in health policy right now, Maya. My goodness, you must be busy. Thank you for being here. How are you doing?
Thank you so much for having me, Beck. It's great to be here. Always busy. That is the joke with healthcare journalism, is that there's more job security than in other parts of the industry.
Good point. There really is, because my God, from Medicare to federal agency stuff, price transparency, it never ends. And as I'm looking at just some of your articles, you're talking about everything from EPA to health groups, improving care for intellectual disabilities. You're covering Biden budget stuff. We talk about microplastics quite a bit. First thing, before we get into your specific coverage, for those who maybe aren't as familiar, how would you describe the coverage of Axios?
Axios is built around this core tenet of what we call smart brevity. So it's very to the point journalism that gives you what you need to know without the fluff, that you can read in like a minute or 2 minutes and really come away with like the why it matters of it all. So that's the basic vibe of Axios, and I healthcare newsletter, co-write a healthcare newsletter that does exactly that for healthcare news.
And transitioning to your inbox, how does that look?
It is chaotic, to describe it in one word. Lots of emails. I am an inbox zero kind of person.
Oh, I feel more people are getting on this boat with it. A lot of people on the last couple of shows here are down to the zero. But let's clarify that. Zero as in there's nothing in the inbox, or zero unread?
Zero unread.
Okay, that's me too. That's
save
me too.
The emails in the inbox.
I never trash anything practically, because I'm like, wait, there could be something. So, okay. How often are you hitting the zero? Every day?
Try to go through every morning.
Every morning. Okay. So a 24-hour cycle, you want to be down to zero.
I like to do that. It's obviously easier said than done, but
of course,
that's my goal.
Of course. Okay. And further, what are you doing with the emails? Because I'm sure you're getting, actually, let's even back up a second. How many emails are you getting a day?
I usually would say I get around 200 emails a day.
Okay. So that's a hefty-ish amount.
Mm-hmm.
Then how are you blazing through all of those to know where you're going and what you're doing?
So a lot of those, maybe half, are like delete immediately. Like this is from a listserv that's just like a one-word update or a press release from the White House that has nothing to do with my beat. So a lot of them are delete immediately. And I usually, by now, I'm like familiar enough with my inbox to know what I can delete on site. And then things that don't fall in those boxes, like individual pitches or my morning newsletters that I read from other journalists, I'll usually open those and skim through it. But it has to be pretty eye-catching to get me to read the transparent.
Yeah.
And a lot of those will go into either they'll, I'll click unread, or I have also a folder that is called Interesting Things to Follow Up On, which is probably not the best organizational system, but a lot of things.
But at least it goes somewhere, right?
Exactly.
Like, yeah. Okay, so then what do you do with that folder? You look at it like once a week? What do you do?
Once a month is probably more accurate. And I try to that's where I put things that I'm like, oh, this is interesting, but I don't have time to cover this right now, or I don't know exactly how this fits in right now, but I want to flag it for myself. So then when I have a lull in the coverage, like when I'm like, I don't know what to write about today or for next week, then I'll go back and look and say, oh yeah, this was a couple weeks ago.
Oh, so you're kind of using it as like story memory banking a bit, perhaps.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that sounds nice. And do you also use your inbox as your own personal Google thought leader, like search engine, where you're like, who's the MD that could speak to microplastics, like your article that you just had? Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. Yes. I also have my own Google sheet where I track different sources and experts that I've talked to before, but email is often just as easy or faster to those people.
Mm-hmm. Is there a subject line that stands out to you where you're like, oh, got to click on that?
I would say if it's something that is more conversational and appealing to me as a something that shows that you know what I cover. Hey, Maya, here's this, something that speaks directly to me and I can tell isn't just being sent to a bunch of
everybody and their mother. Yeah.
Exactly.
Speaking of, for experts, and since you're in the policy sector, I imagine it's definitely not people who have a little Medium blog going on. It's going to be policymakers, MDs type of people. But whom are you looking for as people you want to quote or source or anything like that?
Yeah, I would say a lot of people in positions of power, which can vary. That's a broad definition, but people that have some expertise or specialized knowledge or insider knowledge is the general broad theme. So I talk to a lot of lawyers, a lot of academics, a lot of doctors, also a lot of people that work at think tanks and lobbyists and people with that sort of deep policy knowledge. I want to talk more to clinicians, those doctors and people that work in healthcare settings directly, because and also patients and people that are impacted by that, because that's a different kind of power and a different kind of story that I would love to get more into as might be in my coverage.
Mm-hmm. And for people who go, oh yeah, oh my gosh, I have so many of these people to send you. I can't wait to do this, Maya. But they don't know you yet. How can they start a relationship with you? This is one of the most popular questions that boggles the minds.
Yes. Yeah. I don't know how other journalists feel about this, but I love to do a quick on the phone chat, introductory chat, or coffee if we're in the same city. I love to get to talk to people and hear, not just when we're both in a rush and we need to get something from each other, but to get to know people. And then I know who you are and I will recognize your name in my inbox and respond when you send me an email, even if it's, hey, I can't cover this right now, or follow up with me again in a couple months. But yeah, I would say reach out just to say hello and tell me.
Reach out, say hello.
Today's interview will continue after this brief message brought to you by OnePitch. Are you curious to learn about the unique ways OnePitch helps brands engage with the right journalists? Head to onepitch.co and create your own custom media list in 5 minutes or less. Now back to today's episode.
Okay, that's pretty good. And do you ever want to do something in person, Maya?
I love to do in-person things.
Okay. And you're in the DC area, right?
I actually just moved from the DC area to New York.
Oh, well, the epicenter of the world, of course. So good. Great.
Yeah.
I mean, DC, the epicenter
go back
of the government, but
Yeah.
Good. Oh, how are you finding it so far?
I love it. Very overwhelming. Totally still deer in the headlights phase, but very happy to be here and excited.
You don't have to convince me about New York. So yeah, it's my other home, as I like to say. So excellent. Oh, okay. So you're open for, let's drill a little bit more into that. Like, you want a coffee, you want a drink, you want a kombucha, you're going to do yoga. Like, what are we doing?
I would say coffees or drinks are usually my preferred, but if you want to get a meal, I usually can't.
She'll entertain a meal. Take her to a restaurant she hasn't heard of before. I would say that.
Exactly.
Good.
And I also love to go to events. And so like if you work with a client that has an event coming up, invite me. And I would love to try to make it if it works.
Okay. Okay. This is good. How can publicists make your job easier, Maya, if at all, would you say?
Yeah, I would say, I know this is not always in the publicist's hands, but
yes. Please tell us.
My pet peeve is when someone emails me and says, hey, I have this person who can talk on X, Y, and Z. And then I say, great, I'm writing about this right now. I'm on deadline. Can we talk today? And
they go, yeah, never mind.
Yeah. I know that's not always within your control, but whenever possible, don't, just try to be conscious that journalists, and especially myself working on a daily newsletter at Axios, are working on very tight deadlines. And
big time.
And so that's always really helpful when you can help with that.
Yes, I do want to talk about the newsletter. So when do you hit the send publish so that people know kind of the area or the hours parameters of when can they get actually something in the newsletter for, let's say, the next day?
Our newsletter goes out at 6 a.m. every weekday.
Yep.
So that means that we need to, if there's ever an embargo time, it needs to lift by 6 a.m. in order for it to be.
Or you got to wait till the next day.
Or you got to wait till the next day. And then the news cycle is probably over by then. Just
exactly.
Of our world.
Yeah.
So 6 a.m. is when our newsletter goes out. And we like to try to wrap everything up as close to I like to wrap my stuff up as close to 6 p.m. as possible. And obviously that often bleeds later into the evening, but try just for work-life balance purposes, try to get things done by 6 p.m. And then our copy editor looks at it around 8:30. And then we try not to touch it unless there's crazy breaking news until it goes out in the morning.
Oh, do you have some crazy breaking news times? I guess when federal decree from Biden drops or something, you're like, goddamn.
Yeah, I don't think since I started working on the Vitals newsletter, I've had anything like that. But definitely in the past, there's always stuff that comes up and you're like, oh shit, sorry, excuse my language.
No, we can do all the things here. It's a podcast.
Yeah, just totally was not expecting that. And now it blows up my whole weekend. But luckily when you're covering policy,
it doesn't move that fast, does it?
Exactly.
Yeah. There you go. Okay. Let's do a rapid fire question time. If you're open to it, Maya, I got a couple if you're ready.
Okay. Go for it.
Here we go. Video or phone interview?
Situation dependent, but phone or in person usually.
Oh, in person. Okay. Bullet points or paragraphs?
I have to say bullet points because I'm at Axios.
There you go. That is true. Everyone study that. They do bullet points. Okay. Short or long pitches?
Short.
How short? 3 bullet points?
Yeah, 1 paragraph, 3 bullet points. If you can explain the why it matters, which is what we use in our Axios, it's sort of our nut graph, even better.
Email or Twitter or X or whatever, DM?
Email.
Okay. Images attached or Dropbox zip file?
Attached.
Press release or media kit?
Press release. I don't usually have that much.
Yeah, policy, they don't have a media kit. Yeah. Direct or creative subject lines?
Direct, but conversational.
Okay. Yeah. You already mentioned this. Morning time is when you're blowing through the pitches and everything. How often, basically, are you checking email to suss out any pitches?
I'm monitoring my inbox all day long.
Yep.
As I'm sure everyone.
As we are. Well, that's how you get to 0.
Right. I'm monitoring it all day long, but unless there's something that I see that is directly related to what I'm working on today or clearly seems very time sensitive and very interesting to me, I'm probably going to wait until the next morning to answer it.
Mm-hmm. And then we already did cover some sources, but is there any type of publicist that you really prefer, if that even makes sense? I don't know. I mean, clearly it's not like the hospitality publicist, but is it more the DC lobbyist people? I don't know. Anyone you're looking for, more specifically in the PR side?
Yeah, I would say if you work with health systems, health providers, advocacy groups, law firms, universities, those are generally the people that I'm talking to, or like large established companies. I don't do that much in the startup or health tech world.
That's another beat. Mm-hmm.
But yes, exactly. But anything else basically health related is interesting to me.
Okay.
And I also, circling back to
yes, please
do to make my life easier.
Yes, we want to hear it.
Obviously, this is not new information to any publicist, but anytime you can give an exclusive or an embargoed heads up on information is always super helpful.
Okay, just putting that out there. Okay, is there anything further you want to promote, highlight, emphasize? I mean, sign up for your newsletter, but anything else, Maya? We like to shine a little spotlight more on you.
Thank you. I sign up for Axios Vitals. It's free to get. Comes to your inbox 5 days a week at 6 a.m. Like I said, myself and my co-author, Tina Reed, who's amazing, write it. And yeah, look at all of Axios's other newsletters too, in case
there's a lot
over things besides.
You guys are busy.
Yeah, we're busy and doing really great work. Very proud
to
be part of the company. So
it is true.
Shout out to my coworkers.
Shout out to the Axios team. Maya Goldman, thank you for being here. She's the health policy reporter at Axios. Sign up for her newsletter. It's a good one. There we go.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Maya. Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's Coffee with a Journalist episode featuring Maya Goldman from Axios. For more exclusive insights about the journalists on this podcast, subscribe to our weekly podcast newsletter at onepitch.co/podcast. We'll see you next week. But until then, start great stories.